Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. All on board presumed dead in South Korea plane crash. Only 2 survivors pull out. New Georgia President Mikhail Kavelashvili sworn in amid political crisis. Predecessor says Kavelashvili is not legitimate leader. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails recent reports on malaria and cancer. Says country is making remarkable progress in the field of science, health and education. And in sports, Nathan Lyon, Boland frustrate India as Australia's lead stretches to 333 at Melbourne. A passenger plane burst into flames on Sunday after it skidded off a runway at South Korean airport. The plane slammed into a concrete fence when its front landing gear reportedly failed, killing all on board. Only 2 survivors pulled out. Here's what we know so far about this devastating tragedy. Syed Absarul Hassan has more details.
Terrifying scenes unfolded at South Korea's Mann International Airport in South Jeolla province as the Jeju Air flight from Bangkok crash-landed. The plane skidded off the runway, slammed into a concrete fence and exploded into a massive fireball. Smoke billowed from the wreckage as emergency crews rushed to the scene. As of now, all on board are presumed dead. Only 2 survivors, a pair of flight attendants. Authorities have pointed to a bird strike and poor weather conditions as likely causes. Fire officials reveal the plane was almost completely destroyed as passengers were flung from the aircraft upon impact. The horrific incident occurred just minutes after the control tower warned of a bird strike, with the pilot attempting a landing despite the danger. Jeju Air, South Korea's largest low-cost carrier, expressed profound regret and pleaded full cooperation with rescue efforts and supports for affected families. This is the airline's first fatal accident since its inception in 2005. Boeing, the aircraft's manufacturer, stated that it is ready to assist Jeju Air and investigators. Bird strikes, often dismissed as minor aviation risks, have caused catastrophic accidents in past, underlining the tragic risk of flight safety. South Korea's acting president Choi Sang-mok convened an emergency meeting before rushing to the crash site. Meanwhile, Transport Minister Park Sang-woo assured the public that every resource would be mobilized for rescue and recovery efforts. This heart-wrenching tragedy has left families mourning and a nation in shock. As investigations continue, the world awaits for answer about what led to such a catastrophic crash. With inputs from Nupun Praveen, Syed Absarul Hassan for DT India.
And DT India correspondent Anil Thomas is joining us live. Anil, what's the update you're getting on this right now?
Well, good afternoon, Siddharth. Well, the news coming in not very great to hear.
Yeah.
Of the 181 passengers on board, 2 crew members have been saved for the factor that the aircraft has split into two and hit the wall. And when the aircraft is split into two and hit the wall, there's generally a plume of smoke and fire that you see, and you don't get much of survivors. It's hoping against hope that you can manage something. And the way things stand, it looks almost likely that the casualty could be as high as 177. It's the worst that the civil aviation in South Korea has seen, and this is a low-cost airline that's facing its first big accident, but one that's made headlines across the world, and that sends shockwaves not only in South Korea but also world watching it as we are in the final stage of almost less than 48 hours getting into New Year. So this comes as a dampener. There are two other big aircraft crashes that South Korea has seen, one that lost 68 passengers and the other that lost 129 passengers. But this number and the way it's happened clearly has upset that low-cost airline business in South Korea. South Korean low-cost airlines are pretty dependent and are considered pretty safe. This particular airline started in 2005 and getting its first big tragedy almost 18 years into its of being in the business, but clearly has upset the apple cart. But huge loss to life, especially as people were gearing to celebrate New Year in South Korea.
Definitely, it's indeed very tragic, Anil. But Anil, what the civil aviation experts are telling you on this fatal accident?
Well, that's an interesting take to this entire story. The first story that we heard, or the first theory that we heard, was that the landing gear did not open up. Okay. The plane did have a landing that was not safe, and then again took off, and again it landed on its belly. And if a plane lands on the belly, it's almost taken. And with the speed which it had landed on its belly, I think it was not much. It hit the end of the runway, and then it hit the wall, the outside perimeter of the wall to the airport, and that's where the crash happened, and the tail and the plane split into two. But there is another theory that's just come into play. That's the air traffic controller that's indicated that the pilot was warned, especially about the pilot and the aircraft was warned that there could be instance of bird strikes that happen in this part of South Korea. Remember, South Korea, there are 14 regional airports that are there, and this particular air crash has taken place almost 290 kilometers away from Seoul. So this particular airport is very close to fields, and this has a history of especially bird strikes coming and hampering, especially when the landing process takes place. I was just going through some history on South Korean airports, and there are 14 regional airports, as I mentioned, or at least 10 incidents that have been reported between 2019 and 2024. This is data from the Korean airports. That's why I was looking at the original data. So the airports there clearly indicate that there are bird strikes that take place. And this particular airport where it has happened is located near fields and coastal areas. So the probability of that coming, a bird coming, especially when the flight is coming at that pace, is very high. And remember, even a 900 gram, or for that matter, anything less than a kilo, a bird coming when a plane is zipping down at almost 370 kilometers an hour, you can expect that the impact when it happens is very high.
Yeah.
And even the best of pilots can lose control of the plane, especially however small the bird is. But it is very difficult for the pilot to then gain control and then save the plane if there is a bird that comes especially and gets stuck in the engine, or for that matter that hits the front of the plane. And I think that's another theory that's been given. We'll have to wait for the Joint Commission report that's coming, that's expected very soon. Once that is there, we'll get a clear picture on how exactly this accident has taken place. But this particular aircraft, the way the visuals that we saw, clearly sending shockwaves, and people are, people not only in Korea, but people all over the world are gearing up to travel, especially during the season. And this surely is a big dampener for people ready to travel all across the world when you see something tragic as that happen, where you've almost lost the entire crew on board, 181 passengers, almost 177 to 179 expected to be dead.
Definitely, Anil. This is really tragic, like I was mentioning earlier as well. But we leave it there. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful analysis by you, and we'll have to wait, till the investigation comes out with some results. Thank you so much. And South Korea is having a political crisis. South Korea's suspended president Yoon Suk-yeol refused a summons to appear for questioning on Sunday, the third time he has defied investigators' demands in 2 weeks. Yoon, a former prosecutor, also failed to attend a hearing he was summoned to last Wednesday, giving no explanation for his absence. The Conservative leader was stripped of his duties by Parliament on December 14 following a short-lived martial law declaration that plunged the country into its worst political crisis in decades. Yoon faces impeachment and criminal charges of insurrection, which could result in life imprisonment or even the death penalty. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un held a key policy-setting meeting of the country's ruling party last week ahead of the new year. According to state media KCNA, the meeting of party and government officials decided that North Korea would launch the toughest strategy to counteract the United States for its security and national interests. The December 23rd to 27th meeting also reviewed the handling of floods earlier this year, including the plan that brought those affected to Pyongyang, the capital. The country also vowed to promote relations with friendly countries during the meeting. Kim also called for progress in defense science and technology to bolster the country's war deterrence. Mikhail Kavelashvili, a hardline critic of the West, was sworn in as the president of Georgia on Sunday amid a political crisis after the government froze European Union application talks in a move that sparked major protests. Kavelashvili is expected to further escalate the political crisis after the contested October 26 parliamentary election, in which the pro-Russian Georgian Dream claimed a landslide victory. Meanwhile, the outgoing president Salome Zurabishvili, a pro-EU critique of the ruling party, said in a defiant speech to supporters outside the presidential palace that she was leaving the residence but remained the legitimate office holder.
6 years ago, I swore allegiance to you on the Constitution, and this allegiance will not change. Wherever I am, in the presidential palace or outside the palace, I will come out of here to you and I will be with you. Legitimacy comes from one source, and that source is you. And where there is no trust of the people, there will be no legitimacy. And because of the parity that is happening there in the parliament, we have two different pictures of the situation. There are scared, corrupt, illegitimate, unrecognized, and embittered people out there.
Russian energy giant Gazprom would suspend gas exports to Moldova from January 1st due to unpaid debt by Moldova, which is bracing for severe power cuts. Russia supplies Moldova with about 2 billion cubic meters of gas per year, which is piped via Ukraine to the breakaway region of Transnistria, where it is used to generate cheap power that is sold to government-controlled power of parts of Moldova. Moldovan Prime Minister Dorin Richan condemned the Russian decision, which is a precursor to a total shutdown of Russian gas exports via Ukraine and to Europe, where it flows further to Slovakia, Austria, Hungary and Italy once a current transit deal with Ukraine expires on December 31st. Moldova will be hit the hardest by the shutdown. In a statement on Facebook, Moldovan PM accused Russia of using energy as a political weapon and said that Moldova would now consider its legal options, including international arbitration. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlights the significance of mega festival in his Mann Ki Baat. The Indian Space Research Organisation set to launch its space docking experiment SpaceX on Monday. Trump defends the visa program that allows highly skilled foreign workers to immigrate to the US.
Well, 2024 has been quite a journey, especially when we talk about the world of cinema. From the 100 years of Raj Kapoor to India's prowess at Cannes Film Festival, will take you through the journey of the year 2024, Selections 2024.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. US President-elect Donald Trump on Saturday defended the visa program that allows highly skilled foreign workers to immigrate to the US. Trump, in an interview, sided with key supporter and billionaire tech CEO Elon Musk in a public dispute over the use of the H-1B visa, saying he fully backs the program for foreign tech workers opposed by some of his supporters. Trump's remarks followed a series of social media posts from Musk, the CEO of Tesla, Open's new tab, and SpaceX, who vowed late Friday to go to war to defend the visa program for foreign tech workers. In his first term, Trump restricted access to foreign worker visas, and he has previously criticized the program. But during the 2024 campaign, Trump signaled openness to giving some foreign-born workers legal status if they graduated from a US university. The newly appointed head of intelligence services in Syria said the country's security institution will be restructured after all current security entities are dissolved. Anas Khattab announced a plan to dissolve the institutions that were so feared under the rule of ousted dictator Bashar al-Assad 2 days after being appointed to his post by the country's new leadership. In a statement, he stressed the suffering of Syrians under the oppression of the old regime. Prisons were emptied after Assad's fall as officials and agents of the deposed regime fled. Meanwhile, people protested outside Downing Street in central London to call on the UK government to uphold its humanitarian obligations and end the suspension of asylum applications for Syrians. Thousands have fled Mozambique in the past week to neighboring Malawi, seeking refuge from the southern African nation's deadly post-election protests. Some 13,000 people have crossed over to Malawi since Monday, according to government sources. The day Mozambique's top court confirmed the ruling party's win in October's vote. Several government ministries were put on alert, and the asylum seekers were being housed across a number of temporary sites. Around 134 of those were killed since the top court on Monday confirmed victory for the Frelimo party, which has been in power since independence from Portugal 5 decades ago. Afghanistan is making headway in one of its biggest infrastructure projects. Officials say the second phase of the Kosh-Tepa Canal in northern Afghanistan is nearing completion. According to the National Development Corporation, 81% of canal's second phase is complete, while construction of the associated dam has reached 67%. The ongoing work on this canal project is taking place in the Ankhoet district of Faryab province. This ambitious project aims to revolutionize irrigation in the region and significantly boost agricultural productivity. This will help achieve self-sufficiency in grain production that Afghanistan has to import from many other countries. The project will also generate numerous job opportunities in various sectors in the war-torn nation. Saudi Arabia is undergoing a transformation under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030, with women at the heart of these sweeping reforms. From gaining the right to drive to breaking workplace barriers, the kingdom's women are stepping into new opportunities. There's more.
For decades, women in Saudi Arabia lived under strict restrictions. They were required to wear abayas, prohibited from interacting with men outside their families, and they couldn't drive. But in 2018, everything changed. The historic lifting of the 86-year-old ban on women driving marked a new chapter in the kingdom. It was part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030, a reform plan to diversify the economy and modernize society. Najad, one of the first Saudi women to get her driving license, recalls the liberating experience.
I was a bit scared. I used to go out by driver, but now I rely more on myself and I drive myself. It's a wonderful feeling.
Saudi women are feeling changes in other areas as well. They can now travel without a male guardian, attend sports events, vote, and even work in public-facing jobs. Gender segregation in restaurants has also ended. Work profile of women is also seeing a drastic change in their favor. An increasing number of Saudi women are now joining the workforce. This is bringing about new business opportunities in the land.
هذا كنت أشوفه في جميع البلدان.
In the past, Saudi women used to work in their homes, but today women are going out to work. Saudi women have all the capabilities to develop this country.
But challenges remain. Legal restrictions require Saudi women to obtain the consent of a male guardian to get married or divorced. However, their growing presence in public life is reshaping the kingdom, one step at a time, and many believe that there will be more progress. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed recent reports on malaria and cancer. Sharing his thoughts in 117th episode of his Mann Ki Baat radio program, PM Modi said India is making remarkable progress in the field of science, health and education.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, भारत की दो बड़ी उपलब्धियां आज विश्व का ध्यान आकर्षित कर रही हैं। पहली उपलब्धि मिली है मलेरिया से लड़ाई में। मलेरिया की बीमारी 4000 वर्षों से मानवता के लिए एक बड़ी चुनौती रही है। आज मैं संतोष से कह सकता हूं कि देशवासियों ने मिलकर इस चुनौती का दृढ़ता से मुकाबला किया है। विश्व स्वास्थ्य संगठन WHO की रिपोर्ट कहती है भारत में 2015 से 2023 के बीच मलेरिया के मामलों और इससे होने वाली मौतों में 80% की कमी आई है। यह कोई छोटी उपलब्धि नहीं है। साथियों, अपनी जागरूकता और संकल्प शक्ति से हम क्या कुछ हासिल कर सकते हैं, इसका दूसरा उदाहरण है कैंसर से लड़ाई। दुनिया के मशहूर मेडिकल जर्नल लैंसेट की स्टडी वाकई बहुत उम्मीद बढ़ाने वाली है। इस जर्नल के मुताबिक अब भारत में समय पर कैंसर का इलाज शुरू होने की संभावना काफी बढ़ गई है। समय पर इलाज का मतलब है कैंसर मरीज का ट्रीटमेंट 30 दिनों के भीतर ही शुरू हो जाना। और इसमें बड़ी भूमिका निभाई है आयुष्मान भारत योजना ने। इस योजना की वजह से कैंसर के 90% मरीज समय पर अपना इलाज शुरू करा पाए हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his Mann Ki Baat program elaborated upon the radiance of Indian culture in the world. He touched upon efforts from 3 continents which are witness to the global reach of Indian cultural heritage.
इनमें ताजमहल की एक शानदार पेंटिंग भी शामिल है जिसे 13 साल की एक बच्ची ने बनाया है। आपको ये जानकर हैरानी होगी कि इस दिव्यांग बच्ची ने अपने मुंह से इस पेंटिंग को तैयार किया है। सबसे दिलचस्प बात यह है कि इन पेंटिंग्स को बनाने वाले भारत के नहीं बल्कि इजिप्ट के स्टूडेंट्स हैं, वहाँ के विद्यार्थी हैं। कुछ ही हफ्ते पहले इजिप्ट के करीब 23,000 स्टूडेंट्स ने एक पेंटिंग प्रतियोगिता में हिस्सा लिया था। वहाँ उन्हें भारत की संस्कृति और दोनों देशों के ऐतिहासिक संबंधों को बताने वाली पेंटिंग तैयार करनी थी। मैं इस प्रतियोगिता में हिस्सा लेने वाले सभी युवाओं की सराहना करता हूँ। उनकी क्रिएटिविटी की जितनी भी प्रशंसा की जाए वो कम है।
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the nation in the 117th edition of his monthly program Mann Ki Baat on Sunday. He threw light on the upcoming Maha Kumbh Mela, which will begin from January 2025. More in this report.
The 2025 Maha Kumbh Mela will take place in North India's Uttar Pradesh. The Mela, which is a mega cultural spiritual fair, will take place in the city of Prayagraj from January 13th to February 26th. The festival is a major gathering of people, including saints, sadhus, sadhvis, ascetics, and pilgrims. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted the significance of the mega festival in his Mann Ki Baat program on Sunday.
हम समाज में विभाजन और विद्वेष के भाव को नष्ट करने का संकल्प भी लें। अगर कम शब्दों में मुझे कहना है तो मैं कहूंगा, महाकुंभ का संदेश, एक हो पूरा देश। महाकुंभ का संदेश, एक हो पूरा देश। और अगर दूसरे तरीके से कहना है तो मैं कहूंगा, गंगा की अविरल धारा, न बटे समाज हमारा। गंगा की अविरल धारा, न बटे समाज हमारा।
The Prime Minister urged all to attend this mega festival of Maha Kumbh Mela 2025.
अनेकता में एकता का ऐसा दृश्य विश्व में कहीं और देखने को नहीं मिलेगा। इसलिए हमारा कुंभ एकता का महाकुंभ भी होता है। इस बार का महाकुंभ भी एकता के महाकुंभ के मंत्र को सशक्त करेगा। मैं आप सबसे कहूंगा, जब हम कुंभ में शामिल हो तो एकता के इस संकल्प को अपने साथ लेकर वापस आए।
The Indian Prime Minister also informed countrymen about the concept of Digital Maha Kumbh being introduced this year during the mega festival of Maha Kumbh Mela with the help of artificial intelligence.
साथियों, इस बार प्रयागराज में देश और दुनिया के श्रद्धालु डिजिटल महाकुंभ के भी साक्षी बनेंगे। डिजिटल नेविगेशन की मदद से आपको अलग अलग घाट, मंदिर, साधुओं के अखाड़ों तक पहुंचने का रास्ता मिलेगा। यही नेविगेशन सिस्टम आपको पार्किंग तक पहुंचने में भी मदद करेगा। पहली बार कुंभ आयोजन में एआई चैटबॉट का प्रयोग होगा। एआई चैटबॉट के माध्यम से 11 भारतीय भाषाओं में कुंभ से जुड़ी हर तरह की जानकारी हासिल की जा सकेगी। इस चैटबॉट से कोई भी टेक्स्ट टाइप करके या बोलकर किसी भी तरह की मदद मांग सकता है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also asked all the visitors of the Maha Kumbh festival to upload selfies from the Mela with a hashtag.
आप भी महाकुंभ में जाएं तो इन सुविधाओं का लाभ अवश्य उठाएं। और हाँ, हैशटैग एकता का महाकुंभ के साथ अपनी सेल्फी जरूर अपलोड करिएगा।
Overall, this year during the Maha Kumbh Mela, devotees will also get the facility of Digital Lost and Found Center. Devotees will get information about government-approved tour packages and places to stay and homestays on their mobile phones. The Prime Minister assured all the visitors that they can take the advantage of all these facilities during the Maha Kumbh. Antara Sinha for DD India.
Maha Kumbh 2025 is set to provide a truly unique experience for visitors, with the government making exceptional arrangements to enhance the event. Comprehensive plans are being made to ensure the seamless execution of all activities throughout the event. Take a look on the report by DD India's Kajal Kant.
The Maha Kumbh 2025, scheduled from January 13 to February 26, will be a monumental spiritual event lasting 45 days and is expected to attract over 400 million visitors from across the world. The road infrastructure for the Kumbh Mela is undergoing a major overhaul, as 92 roads are being renovated and 17 roads are being beautified. Also, 30 pontoon bridges are being constructed utilizing 3,308 pontoons. Additionally, 800 multilingual signages will be installed, ensuring visitors to easily navigate the vast area. A total of 269,000 checkered plates are being laid across the area. A key aspect of the event is the transformation of Maha Kumbh Nagar into a temporary city designed to accommodate the millions of pilgrims. Thousands of tents and shelters will be set up for visitors with mobile toilets and a robust waste management system to ensure cleanliness. A network of 2,700 CCTV cameras equipped with AI capabilities will be installed for real-time monitoring. This will be complemented by the use of facial recognition technology. Drones will also be deployed for aerial monitoring of the entire area. Underwater drones capable of diving up to 100 meters will provide round-the-clock surveillance in the rivers. 131.48 crore rupees have been allocated for fire safety measures along the deployment of 50,000 personnel. Temporary hospitals equipped with surgical and diagnostic facilities will be set up to handle medical emergencies. Bhishma Cube, a mobile medical unit capable of treating up to 200 people simultaneously, will also be installed. Special initiatives like Netra Kumbh Camp will offer eye tests for over 5 lakh pilgrims with dedicated health camps for elderly pilgrims and children. 3 temporary sewage treatment plants are being installed to ensure the cleanliness of Ganga and Yamuna rivers. The event will also focus on promoting the use of solar power for lighting, reusable materials, and ban on single use plastics, reinforcing the commitment to sustainable practices. Temporary Wi Fi zones are being established along with fully integrated Google Maps, providing visitors with easy navigation assistance with Maha Kumbh Nagar. New corridors such as the Aksharvat Corridor, Hanuman Temple Corridor, and Patalpuri Corridor with the renovation of major temples are developed to enhance the spiritual experience of pilgrims. For international visitors, multilingual signages will be provided along with cultural programs that showcase India's rich heritage and diversity.
Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Outgoing Georgian President Zurabishvili says she remains legitimate president as she departs presidential palace. We'll discuss the political crisis of Georgia. Snow clearance operation underway on Zojila Pass in Kargil, Ladakh. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj and a quick recap of headlines. All on board presumed dead in South Korea plane crash. Only 2 survivors pull out. New Georgia President Mikhail Kavelashvili sworn in amid political crisis. Predecessor says Kavelashvili is not legitimate leader. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails recent reports on malaria and cancer, says the country is making remarkable progress in the field of science, health and education. Tensions remain high in Georgia amid severe political crisis. In a latest, Mikhail Kavelashvili was sworn in as president, but the outgoing president Salome Zurabishvili said she was leaving the residence, but Kavelashvili had no legitimacy as president. Now, to discuss more on this, I'm joined by foreign affairs expert Dr. Swasti Rao. Ma'am, first of all, thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast. Major political crisis in Georgia, people out on streets, Kavelashvili sworn in as president. How do you analyze the current political situation in the country?
Well, very good evening to you, Siddharth. It's great to be here. And thank you for that question. I'm glad, you're discussing it, but because often Georgian geopolitics and what is happening in Caucasia is seldom not really seen and discussed in India.
True.
So first of all, congratulations for bringing that up because it indeed is a political crisis.
Yeah.
So very quickly, if you remember why this drama has unfolded, I think the roots of this go back to a month ago almost, when the Prime Minister, okay, so just for the viewers, understanding, in Georgia, there are 2 key posts, the President and the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister is the one who has all the executive power. And the Prime Minister's government, has basically, and that has been in power for many, many years in Georgia now. So what they have done is that according to the people, they have gone back on their promise of joining the EU because they formally joined joined the EU accession talks. They, as in Georgians, formally joined the EU accession in 2022 or 2023, I think in 2023. And what they have now done this year is that they've rolled back, that particular demand. And the people seem to be very angry with that, because the people say that this is happening because the Prime Minister's party is very close to Russia. In fact, the head of the Prime Minister's party is an oligarch with very deep ties with Russia. So that's what the people say, and that's also the what the OSCE says, and the European Commission, etc. And what really started happening was that they started to, in fact, go against what the EU accession law requires, and started to insist on outlawing foreign influence and another law that started to discriminate against sexual minorities. And for making that EU accession, you have to literally also have these basic reforms, unless you can't really join the EU. So cutting a long story short, what has happened is that the Prime Minister's party has rolled back on that plan. And of course, the people are very upset over it, because I think not many people know that in Georgia's modern constitution, joining the EU is actually laid down as a constitutional plan. So
it's in the constitution, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, joining the EU, or the aim, that particular aim, is pretty much anchored in Georgia's constitution. And if you look at whenever the pollings have happened about whether the Georgians should join the EU or not, it's more or less 80% plus minus people in Georgia have always backed EU membership. And just to clarify a little bit, all the support that you see in Georgia is for joining the EU, which is a geo-economic bloc. There is not so much drive in Georgia to join the NATO, because they obviously see what has been Ukraine's fate. So this is about joining the EU. And the protests ever since have all been because of this, that it's not just about the fact that they don't want to recognize the new Prime Minister and his party, but they are also very upset about how this accession plan has been rolled back. And now, I think few hours ago, the president has stepped down. The president belongs to the opposition party, and a new president has now come. He was a Manchester club footballer, Manchester United footballer. And yes, so the political unrest is just continuing, and I don't see that ebbing anyway soon, because I think some kind of a reconciliation needs to be brought out between the ruling party and the people.
Dr. Rao, like you were also mentioning, opposition is accusing ruling party of authoritarian, anti-Western and pro-Russian policies. Now, outgoing President Salome Zurabishvili says, she's leaving the residence, but Kavelashvili had no legitimacy as president. What does this indicate? Is anyone having an ultimate say here?
Now, very quickly, like I told you, that one needs to understand that president is not really that powerful a post in Georgia. It's basically the Prime Minister that is the head of the executive. So obviously one can understand, I mean, we here in India understand that well, because here it's the Prime Minister that really is the leader of the country, But as far as the legitimacy is concerned, I think the point that the outgoing president has made is that he was the one that truly reflected people's view on the accession when it came to the EU, whereas the new, the Manchester City footballer, who's now become Georgia's new president, in fact, the entire process, she is called out against the entire process. She says that, there's this electoral college that has chosen this particular candidate, but then he is basically chosen because he's closer to the Prime Minister. So end of the day, this is a kind of a ploy by the Prime Minister to strengthen his grip over Georgian politics, because I mean, you can very well understand that if the Prime Minister is from a different party which has majority, and if the opposition has a president, then practically you're talking about a deadlock kind of a situation in day-to-day politics. And I think this was coming. I mean, I'm not very surprised of this change. I think somewhere ever since the protests were gripping the city, the capital particularly, and especially since the way it was covered by all the Western media. Typically what happens in these post-Soviet societies is anytime there is a pro-Western narrative, it is always mired with a lot of the CIA hand and all of that. All the color revolutions, there's an old history of how the color revolutions have happened. Nearby Ukraine is a very good example of what happened in 2014 Maidan revolution. But what I'm trying to say is that I think the best way for the ruling party to strengthen their grip on the politics of the day is to make sure that the president is also somebody that has the same kind of an outlook. And I was honestly somewhere expecting that we would see a change in the president very soon, because this would have really locked Georgia in a kind of a political deadlock. So I don't really see that the deadlock is anywhere completely resolved. But for sure, the prime minister right now has strengthened his grip on the political narrative by getting a president that supports him. That's true. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that whatever the situation is in Georgia right now, it was pretty much on the cards?
Well, I mean, it is pretty much on the cards, because when you look at Kavela Shivli, so he's just become the president, and it was not really an election because he was the only candidate in the ballot. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you, that's one of the reasons why the outgoing president has said that this is a completely illegitimate kind of a government, because he doesn't really. Where is the election? I mean, he's nominated, and he's the only one to be nominated, and he's the only one to go and cast a ballot for. So this really does look like a very staged and a very managed kind of a political, development. And what I'm saying is that I think from the prime minister's perspective, it makes a lot of sense for him to have somebody can join hands with him and somebody that locks horns with him.
Okay, Dr. Rao, very quickly, do you believe that the chaos that the country is witnessing is purely because of Georgian Dream's suspension of EU accession talks until 2028, which is abruptly halting a long-standing national goal of joining the bloc, or there could be other reasons as well? Very quickly.
No, very quickly, if you ask me very quickly, yes, that is the only reason. That is the only dominant reason. This particular rollback has been happening ever since 2012, and small little changes have always caught everybody's attention. But this formal rollback is the real cause of the anger, and that is why I see that unless these differences are reconciled, I don't see the protest dying down anytime soon. That's true.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful analysis by you. Thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast once again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The Indian Space Research Organisation is set to launch its space docking experiment, SpaceX, on December 30th. The mission will use PSLV C-60, lifting off at 21:58 IST from Sriharikota. SpaceX marks a milestone showcasing India's expertise in spacecraft docking technology. SpaceX will deploy 2 identical satellites. Key objectives include performing precision rendezvous and docking maneuvers, validating pass transfer between docked spacecraft and operating payloads post-undocking with a 2-year lifespan. This capability is vital for India's lunar and interplanetary missions. Docking technology enables multi-launch missions and supports future human space flight. Only the US, Russia and China have mastered such advancements so far. All right, let's take a look at other stories making news. Snow clearance operation underway on Zojila Pass in Kargil, Ladakh. Chief Executive Councillor chaired a high-level meeting to review the preparedness for snow clearance in Kargil and along the Zojila axis. Parade rehearsal of defence personnel for the 78th Republic Day is underway at Kartavya Path in the national capital. India will celebrate its 78th Republic Day on 26th of January. And still to come on DD NewsHour. India's Koneru Hampi wins World Rapid Chess Championship for the 2nd time. In English Premier League, Leicester City will be up against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City tonight.
This year, the Wall of Sport gave unforgettable moments that will forever echo in the halls of glory. From Paris Olympics 2024 to India's trailblazing success at the Paralympics, chess prodigy Gukesh conquering the world. India ended a long way to bring home the T20 World Cup glory. And on the European stage, Spain proved their dominance yet again. Relive the drama, the triumphs and the passion that defines Sports Saga 2024.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for sport. Let's start with, and in fact, we'll begin with what's happening around the world. Severe tornado hit Texas on Sunday, leaving trails of destruction. Trees and power lines in the vicinity were also brought down by the storm. Emergency crews are currently evaluating the situation. Local authorities are advising residents to remain cautious as cleanup and recovery efforts commence. Heavy fog has continued to cause delays and cancellations at some of the United Kingdom's busiest airports for the second day in a row. A number of other delays were reported at Manchester Airport, Heathrow Airport and Birmingham. Weather forecasters said fog would persist across much of England and Wales. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for sport, and a half-century from Mann and stubborn tail-end batting drove Australia to a 333 runs lead at the end of day 4 in the 4th test against India in Melbourne on Sunday. Nathan Lyon and Scott Boland marched off after having added unbeaten 55 runs partnership for the final wicket as Australia went to stumps at 228 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Lyon was 41 not out with number 11 Boland on 10. Earlier, Jasprit Bumrah grabbed 4 wickets to hand India an outside chance of victory. He dismissed Travis Head to earn his 200th test wicket. But Labuschagne, who scored 70, and Australia captain Pat Cummins steadied the hosts with 57 runs partnership. Only one team has ever chased more than 300 for victory in a test at MCG. England scored 332 runs to beat Australia in 1928. In chess, India's Koneru Humpy beat Indonesia's Irani Karisma Sukanda in round 11 to win a FIDE World Rapid Championship 2024 in New York on Sunday. This is Humpy's second World Rapid title after claiming the top spot in 2019 in Moscow. Going into the final round of the event, 6 players apart from Humpy were leading the tournament with 7.5 points in 10 rounds. However, all top boards were ended in a draw before Humpy struck the final nail in the coffin against her compatriot. Indian Grandmaster Arjun Erigesi's candidates 2026 qualification hopes ended after Volodar Murzin of Russia won the World Rapid Championship in New York on Sunday. Arjun needed to finish as sole leader or win via tie breaks to get the candidates 2026 spot, but he finished at the 5th position. This also meant that Fabiano Caruana of the United States became the first player to qualify for the candidates 2026 after leading the FIDE circuit leaderboard. India's Lakshya Sen has bowed out of the King Cup International Badminton Open following a narrow loss in the semi-finals of the Shenzhen city of China. Sen lost to Hu Zhean of China by 21-19, 21-19 scoreline. The two shuttlers seemed fairly evenly matched in the first game and were tied at 17-17 before the 18-year-old Chinese player edged ahead. Sen managed to save 1 game point but couldn't stop Hu Zhean from taking the lead in the match. India will be without Sumit Nagal for the Davis Cup World Group 1 play-off tie against Togo after the 27-year-old made himself unavailable. The contest is scheduled in New Delhi on 1st and 2nd of February. Yuki Bhamri has also made himself unavailable for the tie against Togo. Sashikumar Mukund is all set to return to the national team after his suspension was revoked. Mukund will be the best-ranked singles player in 5-member Indian squad for the Davis Cup matches. Alexander Zverev east passed Thiago Monteiro 6-4, 6-4 as Germany beat Brazil for a winning start to their United Cup defense in Perth on Sunday. The 27-year-old continued his gold form in the mixed team tournament that kicks off the new season. He grabbed a break in his first game and took the opening set with a huge ace. Zverev stepped up a gear at the start of the next set. He closed out the match comfortably to give Germany an unassailable 2-0 lead ahead of the mixed doubles match. Laura had earlier earned Germany their first point in the Group E encounter with a 6-3, 1-6, 6-4 victory over Beatrice Haddad Maia. The Indian women's football team is set to host the Maldives for the 2 FIFA international friendlies in Bengaluru. The matches are scheduled for Monday and Thursday. India are ranked 69th in the women's football FIFA rankings, while the Maldives is ranked 163rd. India's Swedish head coach has named a 23-member squad for the 2 friendlies. The Blue Tigresses last played Maldives in 2021, securing a comfortable 3-1 victory. Leicester City will be up against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City in an important encounter at the King Power Stadium on Sunday. Both teams have been in poor form this season and will want to win this game. Manchester City are in 7th place in the league table at the moment and have failed to meet expectations this season. The Citizens played out a 1-1 draw against Everton last week and will need to take it up a notch in this fixture. On the other hand, Leicester City are currently in 18th place in the Premier League standings and have struggled so far this season. On to now the ongoing first test match between Pakistan and South Africa in Centurion. Both teams find themselves locked in a tense battle on day 4 of the first test match. South Africa is currently at 136 for 8 after 38 overs, needing just 12 more runs to win, while Pakistan requires 2 wickets to seal victory. South Africa slumped to 27 for 3 in their chase of 148 runs. Pakistan, when bad light, brought play an early close on third day. If South Africa win, it will help them secure a place in the WTC final at Lord's. They need 4 runs to win the match. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.